Brittney Griner has been released from Russian prison. She was in a labor camp, which was described as quote unquote slave-like conditions, which is horrific. And there's been reports people being tortured, being assaulted. And thankfully, she's been released. We don't know all the details of how she was released, but we do know there was a prisoner swap with Victor Bout, who is a convicted arms dealer. He is known as the Merchant of Death. And I believe he served the majority of his sentence.
He did.
And yes, and the Biden administration has been able to negotiate this prisoner swap. Brittney Griner was accused and convicted in Russia of drug smuggling because she had, I believe, hash oil in her luggage when she was detained in Moscow in February. And there was another person named Paul Whelan who served 4 out of 6 years of his sentence. He has been accused of espionage by the Russian government. Now, people have been asking, they were hoping originally to get a prisoner swap for Brittney Griner and Paul Whelan, because of course, Paul Whelan should not be detained in Russia either. He is a former Marine as well. But what we do know is that Paul Whelan wasn't even a consideration. The only offer they were giving was Victor Bout for Brittney Griner. And of course, it's been heartbreaking. And there have been other people who have been convicted of the same crime as Brittney Griner and got a much less of a sentence. She was sentenced to 9 years in a Russian labor camp. And I really can't stress the violence of what goes on in a Russian labor camp. There was a young woman who was part of a group called Pussy Riot, which is I believe, somewhat of a punk rock band in Russia that speaks out against President Vladimir Putin. And she was put in this Russian labor camp. And she said it was torture, complete torture. So then this is great news. And just for Brittney Griner's family, for her wife, it's horrific what she's been through, especially as a Black lesbian woman. And we all know that Black folks are not treated well in Russia, despite what you heard a few months ago by some people. We all know LGBT folks are not treated well in Russia. But then, as we're celebrating this win, and I mean, my gosh, to see a Black woman wrongfully detained abroad and to be freed. We have a Dallas Cowboys player, Micah Parsons, who I guess was outraged that she was released over Paul Whelan. Is it Whelan or Whalen? I'm sorry if I'm saying his name wrong. And he tweeted out, "Wait, nah. We left a Marine? Hell nah." Well, the onslaught came down. You had Bakari Sellers. You had Roland Martin. You had our girl here, Reese Colbert, letting Mr. Parsons know that you are deeply, deeply misinformed. And after the tweet goes viral and a lot of response to him, he tweets out this, quote, "My last tweet was no shot at Brittney Griner. I'm super happy she's back home, as she should be. I just have family who served. And it's crazy to me the president wouldn't bring him home too. I'm the furthest thing from a Trump supporter, but I'm not a fan of Biden either." Who asked you? More. Who asked you? What about Jerry Jones? Why don't you tell us what you think about that? So more tweets come. Then he responds again. "Just spoke to some people that I respect and trust. I should have been more educated on the topic and not tweeted out of emotion for my family." Now he's making it about him. "And others who have served. For that, I apologize. Also, if what I'm told about the attempts to bring retired Marine Paul Whelan home are true, then the best outcome was accomplished. I pray Mr. Whelan comes home, but I'm extremely happy for Brittney and her family. I am not too prideful to admit when I've made a mistake. You know, it's just, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Just because you're famous, you're rich, you're a celebrity, you're a sports star, does not mean you have to opine on everything. It really doesn't. What just an ugly thing to put out there when this, you don't know what Brittney Griner has gone through as a woman, as a Black woman in Russia. And the other side of it too is, it is quite possible this Brittney Griner case has brought more attention to the Paul Whelan case.
Oh, 100%.
Is it Whelan or Whalen? Am I saying it right? Whelan or Whalen?
I think
Can
it's
y'all
Whelan.
check in my ear? Yeah, is it Whelan? Okay. It's quite possible that more attention was brought to it. But Micah Parsons, brother, Reese Colbert, your thoughts?
First of all, fuck Micah Parsons and everybody who shares his sentiment. I just did a quick search on Micah Parsons, Mr. I care so much about the Marines. I care so much about the veterans. For the word Marine on his Twitter feed, and for the word veteran, there's no mention of the word veteran anywhere in his Twitter feed. And his first mention of Marine was to disparage the deal being made for Brittney Griner. Out of 2,613 tweets since August 2020, he has never mentioned Marines or veterans. Did you miss Veterans Day? Hello, that happens every year, buddy. Mr. Oh, I love the Marines. My family is Marines. So fuck you. You're full of shit. Okay. The notion that the president left Paul Whelan there. Are you dumb? Are you dumb? Do you think this is the episode of Home Alone where they all caught a flight and Brittney Griner was the last motherfucker on the plane and Paul Whelan is left back at the home to lay booby traps motherfuckers? What do you think this is? Grow up. This isn't a left behind situation. This isn't a battlefield situation. This is a person who has been in prison, mind you, since Trump's ass was president. Trevor Reed was left out the fuck to dry. Paul Whelan was left out the fuck to dry. Before, if I'm not mistaken, now somebody can fact check me, but before Brittney Griner was even in prison, the Biden-Harris administration got Trevor Reed out. And Paul Whelan ass was in jail. No shade to him. I shouldn't say Paul Whelan ass. Let me not do that. Paul Whelan self was still in a Russian prison. So I didn't hear somebody say, let's not make a deal for Trevor Reed unless we can get Paul Whelan out. I didn't see any of that energy when it was Trevor Reed that was getting the fuck out of Russia.
Can I just pause you right there for a minute and add this? Because energy is important. Where was Micah Parsons' energy when you had Republicans voting against health care for veterans?
Hello.
And if you're somebody who doesn't like Biden, fine. But then I got to fact check you. Then you should be praising Biden when he delivered the PAC Act. It was the most significant expansion of veteran health care in 3 decades. Where were you? Where was your, is he some kind of veteran advocate? I don't know. Where were you when the former president insulted a war hero named John McCain? I mean, I don't know if veteran, maybe he's some massive veteran activist. I don't know, Reese. Maybe he's on the front lines. Maybe he spoke. I don't know. But where were you? And this is the moment. This is the moment. I just want to point that out. Because now we got to examine your politics, like you just did. Now you're going to search his name and veterans and Marines. And so, okay, what are your politics now? And go ahead, Reese.
I mean, it's true. Where are your receipts? I want to see some receipts and I want to see some invoices. Since you saw my,
I love an advocate for veterans. Yeah,
I ain't got a problem with it. I
love it.
If I had seen it, I couldn't say that he doesn't have it, but he ain't got the receipts. And let me fact check myself. I just looked it up. Trevor Reed was released in April after Brittney Griner was wrongfully detained. I did not hear a peep out of nobody saying that they should not have brought Trevor Reed home. so that they could continue to make a deal for Paul Whelan. But now when it's Brittney Griner, now all of a sudden it was, well, they shouldn't have left him behind. They shouldn't have left him behind. Y'all full of shit. Y'all are full of shit because it's a Black woman that for once has an armor of protection around her that had the United States government galvanized behind her safe return. And let me address this whole merchant of death, Victor Bout shit, talking about that ain't a fair trade. That ain't a fair trade. You motherfuckers care about fair now? Really?
With Russia.
When has it been fair to be a Black motherfucker in America? When has it been fair to be a Black motherfucker in Russia or anywhere in this world? Now we talking about fair?
Especially a Black lesbian woman.
A Black lesbian woman.
Who's what, 6'7"?
There's no proportionality with Russia. Do you think that we have some random ass Russian, Constantine, whoever, La Jolla, whatever, in some cell in Chicago that's in jail for selling weed that we could just be like, oh, here you go, random motherfucking Russia here? That's not how this works. That's not how this works. We're not dealing with a person who fights fair. Y'all know he's in a whole ass war, killing civilians, violating sovereignty, threatening nuclear war. So Absolutely. This is not a person who's wrapped too tight. This is not a person who's about fairness. So let's just cut out any of the bullshit about fairness, because there is no fairness, okay? It wasn't fair for her to be detained wrongfully in the first damn place. When a white girl a couple years earlier who had significantly more cannabis was in jail for a couple of weeks or whatever situation. I mean, she got her little white ass back home with no incident, no international galvanization behind her. So let's not talk about fair. And to be clear, I know people are latching on to this merchant of death thing, but this person was due to be released in 2029.
Yeah.
He had already.
I think it was a 25-year sentence. I think it was 25 years or so.
It was 25 years, but 2029 was not the full 25 years.
Yeah.
So he wasn't going to do the full 25 years regardless. He was going to get out in 6 years regardless.
Folks were thinking he was behind bars for like 2 years, Victor Bout. Like folks were just assuming it was the same length or to Paul Whelan or so. And let's also add, Paul Whelan's family came out and said this was the best deal because sadly, Paul Whelan was not even on the table. I mean, and also Vladimir, I mean, the idea that Micah Parsons, whatever, Vladimir Putin is a dictator. Right. He is an evil person. Do you really think they did what they wanted to do?
Yeah.
And I know they had negotiators there and there was a lot of work being done, but it's not like this is Biden has no jurisdiction over Russia.
Come on. I mean, people not get that?
Do you think Biden, for him to even use that language, use the language that, oh, yeah, left her there? Do you left him there, Paul Whelan? He has no jurisdiction over Russia. Do you know Russia History 101? Bruh, come on now. We got to do better.
We have to. And you don't have to volunteer your disdain for a Black woman. You don't have to do that unprovoked. Nobody asked you. And all of you folks on your high horse about the trade and this, that, and the other, if you didn't say shit about Konstantin Yaroshenko being traded for Trevor Reed, then don't say a motherfucking thing about Victor Bout, because Konstantin Yaroshenko was in jail for a 20-year sentence and he was traded for Trevor Reed, who was in jail because he basically got into an argument with the Russian cops. So we're not talking about proportionality here. That has never, ever been a thing when it comes to these prisoner swaps. So get your facts right. Get your facts right before you turn around and you shit on a Black woman being released from inhumane conditions, being released as a political prisoner. If she was somebody that was being detained by Greg Abbott in jail for as a political prisoner because she supports Black Lives Matter, everybody will be up in arms. But y'all caping for a fucking Russian dictatorship? Like there was some appropriateness in her being sentenced to hard labor for 9 years for a little bit of hash oil? Check yourself. And the last thing I just want to say is when white supremacists are agreeing with you, you're fucking up. And they was real quick to hop on Micah Parsons' team, and they was saluting him. And then when he was
speaking the truth, he was a free thinker. Yes.
But then when he apologized, they was dragging the shit out of him. So
right. Why did you apologize? You're on that woke stuff. I saw I saw a lot of the comments.
Just take a beat and see who's agreeing with you. If the wrong people are agreeing with you, then chances are you fucking up.
I'm very thankful for Brittney Griner being released. And I'm thankful for the Biden-Harris administration doing the work for them to be released. And also reportedly, Bill Richardson was involved, former governor of Nevada. And I'm just very grateful and thankful. And I look forward to Paul Whelan being released. I can only imagine what he's going through having been behind bars for 4 years. And I truly believe if they could have gotten both, they certainly would have.
100%.
Obviously, Russia said, this is all you're going to get. Get over it. What was Biden supposed to do? Okay, no, we're not going to take it. I mean, let's just be logical here.